But Arnold himself said, what the crap? Okay, this guy's been riding around on his moped with his kid, no helmet, just ripping circles around here. Like, let me just add that in. You can put this at the front of the video or something, but we're filming through this for you guys outside. Cal has me on some ledge.
It's artsy, right? He went to an art school, so.
Colossus Fitness. Make sure to subscribe, share, comment, share again, comment again, share on Google+, like, then share, subscribe, tell a friend to subscribe, put it on Facebook. Peace.
It's a good song though, I'm not gonna lie.
Alright, we brought out the artsy scenery for you so we can have an artsy video about the majestic deltoid.
Wow. Damn.
You can see it through that Lacoste, bro. Alright, so basically we wanted to categorize the delts into a kind of like an encyclopedia of delt building. There'll be a blog down below, or it will be down below in the future. Depends when the blog's written. But anyways, we're breaking down the delt, the anatomy of the delt, how the delt is worked, as well as exercises that will work the deltoid.
So we're gonna break down the anterior, the lateral, and the posterior delt, also known as the front, the side, and the rear delt.
Those are the most common names you'll probably hear in the gym. Usually you'll hear, I'm working my rear delts, joking, you'll never hear that ever. So a lot of the time,
yeah.
When Kyle and I both started, we were those bros in the gym benching 225, half wrapping it out, and our stringers with our bulky bodies, with our little stringer over our droop shoulders. Rear delts actually just pull you right back, and that's the beauty of them. So let's start with, I guess, anterior delt. So the anterior deltoid is your front deltoid. A lot of people will work this specifically, even though they don't really need to. This is the one you could be you could be focusing on the least. That is because when you're doing your bench press movements, you're already really hitting this head. When you're doing overhead press, you're also obviously mainly hitting this head, and you're gonna hit it with a lot of your main exercises that most people do when they do shoulders. We're gonna have a link in this video and down below to the series on the anterior deltoid. The anterior deltoid is mainly responsible for forward pushing movements.
So the lateral deltoid, it's not neglected, I'd say, as much as rear delt, but I find a lot of people neglect it. You know, it basically is all the lateral movements, pretty self-explanatory, anything like lateral raises or
Myron, bro?
Yeah, Myron. And so on. So I find it's one of the main things that really will bring your shoulders out and posture you properly. So then next we have the rear deltoid.
The rear deltoid is going to be anything pulling backwards. So within that, or anything where you're pulling backwards laterally or from the front like this. So for instance, if I bend over like this, or backwards, and that head is right at the back of your delt. That looks juicy when you see people doing that flex, but you got to build it to get it. Got the link down below. We've had a lot of problems with it, but
yeah, rear deltoid has been one of our main problems, and you guys will hear us when we give our tips. We'll talk about that, but it's the part where a lot of people neglect, so it's really important to focus on.
Make sure you're hitting it. That's going to be tip number one as we head into our tip section. Do your rear delts and balance the delts evenly. If you have 3 deltoid heads, which you do, make sure you're doing all 3 evenly, maybe even rear more, because you're gonna hit that front one so much already, and you're gonna hit it heavy in most of your exercise. It's hard to find something that really isolates the rear delts, but we have some great exercises that will do that. However, anterior deltoid is getting a lot of work in your day-to-day chests and other exercise, and that's what's going to pull you forward, kind of give you that big pop that everyone likes, and that's why people hit it so hard.
So my tip kind of ties into Josh's point, and it's to focus on your delts separately, right? So for me, what has worked best is not having shoulders combined with any other day. I like to work them separately, and I find this is the reason. I find that this is because when you start to add in shoulders with anything else, there are 3 heads. People think it's a smaller muscle, but there are 3 heads that you really need to focus on isolating. And when you start mixing in with other things, then you'll start neglecting working your rear delts, your lateral delts.
It's very similar to calves, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people will leave calves to the end and no one does them. Rear delts, you leave them to the end No one does them. And then even shoulders in general. If you're doing chest, shoulders, triceps, you're gonna be like, after chest, you're like, screw this, like I'm over it, right?
So for me, I like to do like 2 to 3 exercises per delt group. And Josh, I remember back when I used to have like, you know, pretty big delts. Like Josh used to admire it.
When I used to.
Like, I mean, compared to this guy, and he'd always ask me what I would do, and I would tell him I like to have a shoulder day on its own and just kill them, like just until I can't, like in a good way where you're not going to hurt yourself, but until I can't do a front raise after at the end.
And tip 3, this is going to go to 99.9% of you out there. There's going to be one weirdo that loves hitting rear delts, but our other tip would be to add a rear delt whole like session in its own multiple times through the week. A lot of people are neglecting that. Kyle and myself, our rear delts sucked, and we had to make up for 2 to 3 years of lifting, right?
Yeah, it's true. So we added in an extra rear delt day where we just focused on our weak points. So we did weak point training, and the rear delts we included into that routine. And
I'm sure you guys, like if you haven't noticed now, like hopefully we'll shove a picture in, but our rear delts sucked. He's always had huge front delts, rear delts were crap.
Yeah, because I never used to really, I know this video is like really about rear delts, but like I find it so important,
We can't stress it enough.
I'll see people's workout routines where they're only focusing on the front and side delts, and they're really neglecting the rear delts.
It's so
I find the rear delts like is really what postures you properly. If you just focus on the front, that's when people start hunching over like this. Like I've been told that my posture's really good, and that's because I do focus on my back especially, but also the rear delts, so I stand up properly rather than being hunched like this, and I'm not chest dominant like most people.
And another huge point within that is if you got no rear delts, and I'm looking at Kyle from the front, I go like, dang, this guy looks good. Before, not now. But then you look at him at the back and you're like seeing a missing part of his shoulder. You're like, what is this? Like, no one will have respect for you unless you're building a very equally crafted, symmetrical looking body.
Yeah. So my tip number 4 is really focusing on the mind-muscle connection. Josh has made a video. We'll also link that down below.
So many links. You guys are gonna be on YouTube for hours.
And I find like it's really important for most muscle groups, but shoulders especially. So I like to keep most of my reps in the higher rep range, and I find it's really important to feel your shoulders isolating and contracting the muscle. So just say you're working your rear delts and you're doing rear delt flies and you start swinging and the weight's too heavy for you. What's gonna happen is you're gonna start incorporating other muscle groups into the exercise. So you're gonna be losing the focus of just working on your rear delts, and you'll be including your lateral delts, your front delts. You'll be including everything, and you won't just be focusing on isolating the rear delt.
Tip number 5, guys, is to mix it up. Don't come in and do 100 sets of shoulder press, call it a day, walk out the gym. Really mix it up. Make sure you're using, Kyle's a big guy about using cables. He loves using cables.
Yeah.
Constant tension on the muscle.
It's true.
It's not funny, but it is, because it's that good, but people don't know to do it. So many people will chill in the dumbbell section and think they're gonna build a killer physique. Like, mix it up, with cables. Don't be doing the same positioning, right? Like,
yeah. So that brings me to the 6th point, which is incorporate supersets and drop sets into your routine. So we like to do supersets where we're gonna do something. We're gonna do something like, let's say lateral flies, and then as soon as we're done, we feel like we're burning out. Then we'll go right to the front raises, which will really kill your shoulders. Like I'm really big about going as hard as I can and pushing till my very end, which also ties me into doing drop sets. We also like to do drop sets for basically any exercise too, because it really allows the muscle fibers to push and expand, and which in turn will help you guys grow and put on some serious size.
So going into drop sets, Arnold himself said he felt it the most. He said, I said switch up your exercises, but also you can change your mindset that you can keep your exercises, but switch up how you're doing them. Arnold worked out with a guy, I don't know who it was, not too good on my...
I guess like Frank? No, Frank's name no. Columbu?
Our bodybuilding history is weak here, but we're
read
working
his book
on
a bit, but
yeah, we're working on it. Anyways, he said he grabbed 100 pounds, do drop sets all the way down to 40 pounds and all the way back up. And he said he couldn't feel his shoulders after. And we've experimented with that.